Greetings, everyone, and welcome to part 3 of my in-depth look at and review of the Transformers Matrix of Leadership 25th Anniversary Complete Series Collection from Shout Factory, released back in 2009. Yeah, we kind of put this one off a little bit, but whatever. At least we're getting it done now. Better late than never. Alrighty, so last time we took a look at the contents. The time before that we took a look at the packaging. This time we're going to talk a little bit about the restoration and remastering that was done for this particular set and kind of how it compares to the same kind of thing that was done for the Rhino set, which we've talked about the Rhino DVDs before. If you go back to my Transformers playlist, you can see those old videos. I've been putting the link in the description of all of these videos, by the way, just in case you want to get brought up to speed. Yeah, so anyway, we're going to talk about the restoration and remastering today on the Multimedia Chronicles. Welcome back. Let's just tilt that. There we go. That's a little better. So, in terms of source material, they had quite a selection of stuff to choose from when putting these sets together. Not only did they have the original 1-inch broadcast master tapes, which contained all the completed episodes as they were originally broadcast, but they also had a set of 35mm film prints, but not of the completed episodes. It was 35mm film prints of the work prints, which were basically early edits of the episodes prior to having some of the retakes and fixed errors and things like that done. So, for the most part, the episodes were complete. For the most part, everything was there. However, there were some cases where things were wrong or things were different from how they were broadcast. Now, when Rhino did their sets, they, of course, found these 35mm film prints, and they were just like, oh my god, gold mine, this is going to be amazing. This DVD set's going to look better than we ever could have possibly imagined. Because, of course, coming from film, the film is way crisper and cleaner and sharper in terms of resolution than the broadcast masters, because the broadcast masters are several generations down the line. I mean, it's not just a matter of taking the film prints and converting them. It would basically be a matter of taking the film prints, converting them, and then doing all the editing on video, thus losing several more generations worth of quality. So the broadcast masters, while they are complete, are kind of fuzzy in comparison to the film masters. I mean, basically, broadcast masters, you're looking at essentially DVD quality, so like early 80s DVD quality. Well, it wouldn't be DVD, but you know what I mean, the same kind of resolution, standard definition, basically. Whereas the film prints, well, film is beautiful and wonderful, and it's designed to be looked at on a big freaking screen. So, yeah, the resolution is just through the roof compared to the broadcast master. So, obviously, for this set, Shout Factory wanted to use as much of the 35mm prints as they possibly could, but in addition to that, they wanted to make sure they didn't duplicate all of the problems that ticked off the fans so much with the Rhino releases. So that was one of the things that Brian was actually calling me about, was asking if I knew if there was any resources that specifically broke down what the problems were with the Rhino sets, so that they could address those specific things in this set and not duplicate those errors. And I said I didn't know off the top of my head, but I'd look into it, so I did some Google foo, and I knew that I'd seen some around just kind of in my travels through the Transformers message boards back in the day and whatnot. I just couldn't remember exactly where they were. So, did some digging around, found some information, found some old posts by fans that were exactly that broke down what the specific errors were. And so then I got back in touch with Brian via email and sent in the links to the information, just everything that I could find. And then they actually went one step further and got in touch with the original fans who wrote those posts. So It was great. So it's kind of funny because I was looking at these old posts where people had broken down all the errors of the Rhino sets, and a lot of the responses to those posts were kind of snarky. My other fans saying, "Oh wow, somebody has too much time on their hands. Like, why would you even bother doing all this?" Blah blah blah. Yeah, well, guess what? That guy's got the last laugh now, because now his name's in the book too, and he had a direct hand in helping to make sure the freaking 25th anniversary set was actually good. Ha! To all you snarky repliers 12 years ago. Yeah. Now you like them apples. Anyway, so the long and the short of it is they wanted to use as much of the 35mm film prints as possible, and then what the plan was just to take individual shots and clips from the broadcast masters to drop in whenever there was a problem with the work prints. So if there was a piece of animation that was unfinished or didn't have effects applied, they would use the broadcast master clip for that. If there was something where there was an error, like, the wrong character's lips were moving or whatever, and then that was later corrected for the broadcast version, they'd drop in the clip from the broadcast master, things like that. So there was for the most part, it was the first season that had the majority of these issues. I guess being a shorter season, they had a little bit more time to request retakes and stuff like that. With the second and third season, not so much. Pretty much they went out as made. I don't think there was a lot of retakes in those seasons because they just didn't have the time or budget for them. So most of those went out much as they appeared on the work prints. So in those cases, they were able to just pretty much do straight transfers off the work prints and have really nice quality versions of those episodes as masters for the DVDs. Now, in terms of comparing the Rhino and the Shout Factory versions, the Rhino versions obviously look a little sharper for the most part. There's a few cases where using early 2000s digital editing technology, they attempted to do some fixes of some of the problems in the work prints, but with very clumsy results. Now, 10 plus years later, they were able to do a much nicer job of it with this. In fact, rather than just trying to do clumsy digital manipulation, they instead just opted to drop in those shots from the broadcast masters and leave it at that. For the most part, it works, because they did do some color grading as well to try to match the color from the broadcast masters as close as possible to the film prints. But you will notice that the resolution is a little bit softer. The image is softer and a little fuzzier than the film prints, obviously. I mean, it's just unavoidable. But the bottom line is, what you have here now is as close as possible to the original broadcast versions, but in better quality than we've ever seen them before. So is it worth the upgrade if you have the Rhino versions? Well, I mean, I would say it's worth it for the extras, but I would also say it's worth it simply because these are the most complete episodes. Like, these are the closest we've ever had on DVD to the original broadcast versions. Prior to that, the only releases we had of the original uncut, unaltered versions were the old VHS releases, and that's fine and dandy, but it's VHS. It's like 4 times less the resolution of DVD. DVD is literally 4 times the resolution of VHS, in case you didn't know. Yeah, so you're getting quite a quality upgrade here. Now, some people have said, oh, well, I don't know if I'm going to bother. I mean, it's all fine and dandy that it's more complete and stuff now, but I don't know if I'm going to bother unless they put it out on Blu-ray. Yeah, well, we'll talk about that a little more in Part 5, but you're going to be waiting a long time for Blu-ray. In fact, it's probably not going to happen. And if it does happen, it's not going to be for a very long time. So, I mean, it's up to you. If you want to stick with your error-ridden Rhino discs, which I've done multiple videos about, or the ones here, much better. Another big issue with the Rhino DVDs was, of course, the audio. How they had this horrible 5.1 mix that added in sound effects and stuff that weren't supposed to be there, and yeah, we've talked about that before as well. You may be wondering, well, what did they do with the audio on this? Well, in this, it's nothing but the original audio. There is one audio track, and that is it. It's a Dolby 2.0 audio track, and it's not mono. It's actually been slightly remixed into stereo, but it's actually very subtle. It's just to give it a little bit more ambience, so that it fills your front speakers a little bit better than a mono track would, and it actually works really well. I think the sound is very nice on these, and I have absolutely no complaints about it. The biggest plus about it is they haven't added anything. They haven't changed anything. All they've done is give it a little bit of extra ambience, and that's it. So I am perfectly okay with that because it's still the sound that we all grew up with watching it. So overall, I'd say they did a really good job. There are still a few little errors that snuck in. I mean, they were remastering all of these and all of G.I. Joe at the same time, and they had about maybe 3 months to put the whole project together from start to finish, from like concept to releasable product. Yeah, so I'm amazed they got it done as quickly as they did and as well as they did. So they're obviously pulling a lot of all-nighters to get these sets done. So overall, my verdict is I'd give it about a 9 out of 10 as far as completeness and quality. There's always a little bit of room for improvement. There are a few minor issues with the set still that snuck in. We'll talk about those in part 4. But overall, I think they did a fantastic job with the remastering. I mean, I have never seen the show look as good as it does on this set, honestly. And having the audio corrected is a big plus too. I mean, for me, I consider the Rhino releases to be an absolute travesty. I mean, in some ways they were well-meaning, but it was just very poorly executed. This was not only well-meaning, but it was very well executed. They kept involving the fans at every step of the process, and they knew full well. They did a lot of research, not just thanks to me, but thanks to all the fans that got in touch. I just kind of helped to get the ball rolling and point them in the right direction to get in touch with the right people. Because I knew there was people out there who knew a lot more about this stuff than I did. But getting everybody to talk back and forth and put as much effort in as possible to make sure that this was as definitive a set as possible. And I think the end result is fantastic. There's a little bit of room for improvement, maybe in a re-release down the line, but overall, I give it a 9 out of 10. Alrighty, so next time we're going to talk about the handful of problems with the set. Yeah, as wonderful as it is, it's not entirely perfect. We have yet to get a truly perfect set of the Transformers on DVD. This is the closest we've had. At the time of this recording, this is the set you want right here. This is the one with everything. This is as complete as it gets. Beyond that, there aren't really any other options. Alrighty, so we'll talk about the problems and some issues I have with it next time. Until then, thanks for watching, and sayonara.